Okay, cool. Did it do a countdown for you too?
Yes.
That's funny. Okay, so where are you?
I live in Oregon.
Oh, nice. How's the weather up there right now?
Well, it's starting to get sunny. It's spring, so it was kind of switching back and forth. We were actually still getting snow and a little bit of hail recently, but
Oh,
hopefully we're starting to get into the warmer, 60s warmer weather now.
very nice. Yeah, we fluctuate. I think the high this week is going to be like 78. And so it gets a little warm, and then the next day or two it'll be like in the 40s. So it's like all over the place. It's weird being from
Bipolar.
Colorado. It really is. Yeah, it's annoying. Well, very cool. I'm excited to kind of help you out. So, what's going on? How can I help?
Well, um, I almost wish I had a recording done before, but so I'm a volunteer, and I want probably some more guidance on how you want these done. I volunteered for Learning Alley.
Oh, cool.
Um, yeah. I've done a couple of books for Audible. Um, but um I'm not sure what now is the coaching that you offer, is this something that's specific to what you're looking for Aftersight, or
No.
this helps with, well, I know that I've auditioned a lot, and I've not had a lot of success on my auditions, so I know I need more help with coaching. So, and I would like to have a little bit more direction on, what I've read so far on Aftersight is that you want no personality in the reading.
That's funny.
I think that was how they put it, something like that. Don't insert your personality, is what they said. Just a straight reading.
Yeah, I can understand that. That's that's funny. Um, okay, so are you currently a volunteer reader, or you're trying to become one?
Um, I am on the sub list, so I'm just
Oh, right.
so I've really haven't I had one day that I had an hour to give to volunteer for Aftersight, and I spent the
Cool.
whole time just reading so that I
Oh,
could
yeah.
familiarize myself on what I was doing, and I didn't even have time to really record after that hour. So I was just like, well, and then I found that there was some free coaching, and I thought, well, that's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah,
It's always
absolutely.
helpful to have free
Yeah.
coaching.
Well, first of all, let me start off by saying thank you for being vulnerable and being willing to do the coaching, because that's half the battle. It's just getting yourself um, in a humble place to receive coaching. It's not easy, especially in a volunteer position. And thank you for being a volunteer first and foremost. I think it's absolutely incredible that what you guys do. So no, my training does not. It's not so constricted to just what Aftersight does. My training is to get you confident with who you are and what you do. Period. That's just baseline, because everything else will translate to whatever it is you want to do after that. So let's start with, you had mentioned that uh your recordings weren't the best, or go back to that for a second.
Well,
Or you're
just that
having trouble with your audition.
I've auditioned a lot to do
Okay.
audiobooks, and I've not had a ton of success.
Oh, for audiobooks, not necessarily for Aftersight.
Well, no, but
Okay.
it's probably, I probably, like you said, it would translate into both skills. So,
Sure. Um, so what kind of things are you finding when you're trying to read? Have you figured out kind of what your voice is, what you like to read, what you don't like to read?
um, for Aftersight,
Well, I mean,
well,
not even for Aftersight. It can be, I mean, you're talking about audiobooks and all that kind of stuff.
yes, I would actually really like to get into e-learning. Um,
Oh,
so, and it seems like you were reading for Aftersight. if I understand it correctly, there's a lot of reading of like local newspapers, which seems like, very informative, like e-learning. And so it seems like it would be really good practice. Um, but audiobooks are probably an easier way to get practice reading as well. So, and get in front of the mic and get paid a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of back me up. What have you done so far in terms of trying to find audiobooks?
Mostly I've auditioned on ACX.
Okay.
There's another local audiobook creator that's here in Oregon, and I've gotten on their roster not long ago. But so far they haven't given me anything to audition for.
Okay.
Um, so I've just been looking out there and seeing what there is that I can audition for, and um, but I'm still very new, so there's a little bit of a learning curve. It's a little bit
Sure. What kind of setup? Run me through your setup real quick so I know what we're working with.
um for my recording space.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have this is my recording booth. I have these soundproof, let's see, soundproof blankets.
Yep.
Here I've got some acoustic foam on the walls. I
Nice.
have a maybe I'll turn the mic. It's a little bit easier for me to see what if I can figure out how to do that. I don't think I know how to do that. I have a Rode microphone.
Nice. Okay.
It's a USB. Um, and so I've got a microphone stand. Oh, I can't see how I'm not able to point. Okay, there it is.
That's okay.
And I've got like a music stand where I can put my script on. My computer is over here. So I had somebody tell me that I sent in some raw audio for someone to listen to. And they told me that my fan on the computer was loud, so I needed to move my computer a little bit further away from the microphone.
Okay.
So I sit here, I hit punch, copy, paste, and then I go walk over to the microphone and close the curtain, and I record onto Audacity.
Nice. How do you like using Audacity so far?
Oh, I like it a lot. I
Yeah.
think it's very. I think they have there's so much information on there. They've got a great user manual. Can't believe it's free. Um,
Yeah.
it's always changing, so I'm always having to learn. I mean, and there's so much that I still don't even know how to use it. There's a lot to learn with using it. So,
Okay. Okay. I got this one. Okay. I'm just gonna text this to you. That way it'll be in a text and you can read it pretty easily. There you go. Much easier.
yes. Okay.
Okay. Cool. So what you're gonna do, and let me just copy this into my scripting so that I can have it easily. So what I want you to do is read this as you normally would, and then we'll go through and kind of massage it and make you feel really comfortable about it, and we'll kind of go from there. Cool?
Okay.
So I'm not going to give you any directions. I just want to read. I want you to read it as you might.
To her surprise, Maria was beginning to grow attached to the wondrous new land she had found herself in. She missed her herd back home, of course. She also missed the sweet taste of the bluegrass in the valley where she was raised. But she liked walking around and leaving hoofprints in the freshly fallen snow. She liked gazing at the tall tower that rose up from behind the castle walls, and imagining what magnificent view it offered out onto the kingdom grounds. But most of all, she liked her new friend. One day she asked the White Knight whether he might allow her to climb the tower to see if she could spot her homeland off in the distance. Well, Maria, the knight responded with slight hesitation, You see, the staircase leading up to the tower is very narrow, and I'm not sure that a four-legged cow like yourself would be capable of making the trip up. Never say never, proclaimed Maria, as she instantly stood upright on her hind legs and began marching toward the castle gates.
Beautiful. Nicely done. So tell me a little bit about your history real quick. Have you done any acting or stage performing or anything like that?
No, I was a teacher. Um, I still substitute teach. In fact,
Oh, awesome.
I have a degree in elementary education.
Awesome. What grade?
Oh, well,
Or I guess you're subbing now, so you kind of sub for a lot of different grades.
I do. I did a first and second grade combined classroom back
Oh,
before
wow.
I had kids many years ago.
Wow. What's your favorite grade to teach?
Oh gosh. I think I really do like these younger grades quite a lot. I think I like first and second grade.
Cool. All right. So here's what I want you to do. First, tell me how you felt about that reading. What did you
Um,
like? What would you want to change?
well,
And I know it was a super cold read, so it might be a little difficult, but I want to see what your initial thoughts were.
I've heard this before. I can't remember where I've heard this before. So, but because of that, I wasn't totally like, well, she's talking to the
Yeah.
night. Well,
Right.
she's standing on her two legs. Oh,
Right.
that's funny. So, it is typically how I read. It's trying to sound interested and doing slight voices.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. And you did great with the voices.
well, thank you. I don't know. And it's a funny thing. I don't even know what else to look for. I've had someone start coaching me a little bit, and he would say things like, what kind of um, bluegrass, or you'd use the words, like the sweet taste of bluegrass, or and
Uh-huh.
I feel like it's like patting my head and rubbing my tummy at the same time. It's just I have to think so hard about, okay,
Yeah.
what kind of fallen snow? You have to
No,
think through all the words before you say them, and I'm
I'm
not
gonna
there
get you
yet.
out of that. I'm gonna get you out of that so fast.
Oh, good.
So fast. You're not even gonna have to think about anything. I am gonna have you do a kind of like a vision exercise. I want
Okay.
you to um, kind of imagine what a grumpy old man reading this would sound like,
Okay.
because that's polar opposite of what the script is kind of portraying, right?
Right.
So I want you to read the first two stanzas, those first two sentences, like a crotchety old man.
To her surprise, Maria was beginning to grow attached to the wondrous new land she had found herself in. She missed her herd back home, of course. She also missed the sweet taste of bluegrass in the valley where she was raised.
Perfect. Fantastic. That was awesome. What did that feel like?
It felt unnatural.
Absolutely. Oh, of course. It's super unnatural. Not only one, you being a woman and trying to act like a crotchety old man, but reading a script that's very childlike and fun is your brain is all in all sorts of places trying to figure this out. Um, okay, so what else? It was unnatural. What else?
um, excuse me.
No?
Um, oh yeah, I felt like I had to think too. It was like, okay, am I sounding more like a whiny kid, or crotchety
Mm-hmm.
old, should I
For sure.
make it more just more
Growly and
more
grumbly and heavy.
growly? Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, my mind was going all over the place of, is this right?
Yeah. Because and what the funny thing is you were talking about emphasis on different words. When we come into a character mode and we're starting to use these different words, the character in and of itself naturally does words different. So when you were talking about the sweet taste of the bluegrass and like that longing in the sweet grass, like you have no context for what that means. And so when I do character training, yeah, there are some ways to enhance a word or to elongate different phrases or things like that. That's like super minutia. We have to start at what is the context of the whole thing we're trying to get across. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I want to start from like a 30,000 foot view, put us in the right mindset so that we can work with the minutia. Okay. So let's read the first two phrases again. This time, I want you to read it as a grocery store clerk who is making a announcement over the PA.
Okay. Okay. To her surprise, Maria was beginning to grow attached to the wondrous new land she had found herself in. She missed her herd back home, of course. She also missed the sweet taste of the bluegrass in the valley where she was raised.
Okay, awesome. How did that feel?
Oh gosh, it didn't feel like I could put much personality into that one. It just,
Of
the
course.
announcer kind of boring. I mean, I
Yeah.
was trying to think about who do I, I'm thinking of like airlines, last call passengers, or
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. What I loved about that is that there was this little southern twang in there. So I don't know if you have anybody in your family from the South or if you grew up in the South or anything like that, but it just kind of came out ever so slightly.
no, I think
Is
that's
any
just the voice I hear in my head when I'm
Sure.
thinking about an airline, or Mazel Tov to the happy couple, or I don't know, like.
I love it so much. And thank you for being super vulnerable because this is just weird. And so I appreciate you playing this little game with me. Okay, so now I want you to imagine if you had your favorite Disney princess, who would that be?
Oh, there's so many new ones lately.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be a new one. It could be an older one. It could be
um, does it have to be a Disney princess?
no, nope. It can be. I do want it to be somebody that is kind of that fairy tale mindset.
Okay. Well, all right.
Or
Not
instead of okay,
Aurora.
sorry, say that again.
I was gonna go with Aurora from Sleeping Beauty.
Ooh, nice. Wonderful. Okay. I want you to read it like Aurora from Sleeping Beauty.
Okay. To her surprise, Maria was beginning to grow attached to the wondrous new land she had found herself in. She missed her herd back home, of course. She also missed the sweet taste of the bluegrass in the valley where she was raised.
Oh, that was so good. How did that feel?
Oh, well, that felt pretty natural. It felt like
Yeah,
that would be a voice that I could use for reading this.
that's right. Okay, so here's the last one. Here's going to be the creme de la creme. I want you don't have to be a particular Disney princess, but I do want you to be a like Disney princess like sounding character. It's going to be that combination of Aurora with a little bit more confidence.
Confidence. Okay. To her surprise, Maria was beginning to grow attached to the wondrous new land she had found herself in. She missed her herd back home, of course. She also missed the sweet taste of the bluegrass in the valley where she was raised. Ooh, one thing my other coaches told me, my voice should go down when at the end of a statement, but I kind of I didn't do that there.
No, so there are appropriate times to go down on the end of a statement. What you did was perfect for the context in which you're talking. Because if I were to go down on that phrase, she missed her herd back home, of course. She also missed the sweet taste of the bluegrass in the valley where she was raised. The also word if I were to go down on that phrase, so here's she also missed the sweet taste of the bluegrass in the valley where she was raised. They have a different meaning and a different connotation. The word you really have to look at in that sentence is the word also. She missed her back home, of course. Downward phrase. So the opposite of down is now you have to go up. So she missed her herd back home, of course. She also missed the sweet taste of the bluegrass in the valley where she was raised. That also word means that you need to go back up from wherever it was you were going. So if you're going down on the phrase before, you're going to come back up on the next phrase. If conversely, if you're going up on the first phrase, or you're going down on the second phrase. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And depending on the character, they would read that differently. If I was the crotchety old man, she missed her herd back home, of course. She also missed the sweet taste of bluegrass in the valley where she was raised. Right? It's that grovel, like annoyed, ticked off. Everything is downward because in that personality, everything about that person is just down and dirty and grimy and get off my lawn and whatever. But for a Disney princess or for somebody who is in a fairy tale like state, she missed her herd back home, of course. She also missed the sweet taste of the bluegrass in the valley where she was raised. It's a pleading. It's a confident telling somebody what is happening, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to do that again, and I want you to read, at least as the narrator, that whole thing again. The whole thing.
The whole thing, and you want it to be the confident princess?
Yeah, and take it a little slower. Just a little bit slower. That pacing was a little quick.
Okay. To her surprise, Maria was beginning to grow attached to the wondrous new land she had found herself in. She missed her herd back home, of course. Ooh, of course.
You're good. Just work with it. Do that phrase again.
She missed her herd back home, of course. She also missed the sweet taste of bluegrass in the valley where she was raised. But she liked walking around and leaving hoof prints in the freshly fallen snow. She liked gazing at the tall tower that rose up from behind the castle walls and imagining what magnificent view it offered out onto the kingdom grounds. But most of all, she liked her new friend. One day, she asked the White Knight whether he might allow her to climb the tower to see if she could spot her homeland off in the distance. "Well, Maria," the knight responded with slight hesitation, "you see, the staircase leading up to the tower is very narrow, and I'm not sure that a four-legged cow like yourself would be capable of making the trip up." "Never say never," proclaimed Maria as she instantly stood upright on her hind legs and began marching towards the castle gates.
That was night and day different. What did that feel like?
It felt good.
What else?
I felt confident. Well, I felt like as trying to be confident, I sat a little taller. But I was still trying to make it feel like a princess, and then a princess who's reading a knight, and then reading the cow voice. So it, boy, but yeah, it was a fun exercise to try all those different ways.
And so now that you have that tool, you know where to not go, right? And so half the time we're trying to figure out, okay, where do I go? Or most of the time that's the question, where do I go? Where do I go? And so many times people don't ask the question, well, where do I not go? Crotchety old man is clearly not the way to go with this. So now we've eliminated that kind of character and then any persona around that character. We've also determined the fact that this is a talking cow, or a mystical cow, or she's somehow talking to the night, which is interesting in and of itself. So we know we're kind of in a fantasy kind of fairy tale land. So now we're narrowing the scope even more. And so we have this little bit of confidence. Maybe she's a little cheeky. Maybe she's, I don't know. We could put whatever personality we wanted to Maria, because at least from this script, never say never, proclaimed Maria as she stood instantly upright on her hind legs and began marching toward the castle. It's that I've got this kind of attitude. And what I noticed when you started doing this exercise is you got more comfortable not only with the script, but the character in which you were speaking. And it became more ingrained in your body. It was easier for your body physically to settle into that role versus a script and a character that would match that of a crotchety old man. So, yeah, I think you did a fantastic job. What kind of other thoughts do you have, at least in terms of the script and how you feel about moving forward?
Does that help me self-direct better for me to reflect on what my thoughts are about my read?
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah, record yourself and reflect on what you would think you would change. Do it in the mirror. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that never occurred to me. I sometimes feel like I'm done. I just want to. Okay.
Yeah, I get that. I absolutely get that. And it's hard to listen to your own voice and be critical of your own voice. But when you listen back to this, you're going to see a night and day difference between the first read and the last read that you just did. It's pretty crazy. And the only words that we talked about were the word, actually was the only word also. And it was just a phrasing thing, not a also or also or also, or like we're not getting into that minutia. The character brings that minutia to its script naturally. So you don't have to think about it.
Oh,
What do you think?
Cool. That's very cool. Okay. That was well, that's very helpful. And I am still rereading through the script several times. It's easier to wrap my brain around how to do different characters than to focus on a single word and
Yeah.
And then make sure, don't punch this word too much, but then punch the next word. And so it's
There now, when you get into reading scripts for commercials and things like that, that is where some of those practices come in. But even then, you can still do character type work with those, like a car commercial or a grocery store ad or, whatever ad placement you want in there. But it's still all character based and there's still personality to it. No one would ever read this script like in Ferris Bueller. To her surprise, Maria was beginning to grow attached to the wondrous new land she had found herself in. Bueller, right? Like, nobody would ever listen to that.
mm-hmm.
Conversely, people would never listen to or get super tired of, well, to her surprise, Maria was beginning to grow attached to the wondrous new land that she had found herself in. Like, that would be way too much. And so, like, holy cow, this guy needs some Ritalin. Like, what is going on? Now, if it's context-based, and that's where the beauty of script reading comes in. If you have the context of the script, you have the context of the story, you can then find a character that matches or sometimes is the polar opposite of that context, and it works. For instance, if you were to read this like maybe Ursula from The Little Mermaid, that would change the entire dialogue and the context of the script, which would be very interesting because now we are still in the fantasy land, but we are now in a darker movie set, or we're in a darker place. Let's just try it one time. Read it like Ursula or like a Disney villain.
Okay.
Hold on. Before you start, I want you to roll your shoulders forward.
Roll my shoulders forward,
Yep.
like
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
so to be like more
Yep.
villainous. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. To her surprise, Maria was beginning to grow attached to the wondrous new land she had found herself in. She missed her herd back home, of course. She also missed the sweet taste of the bluegrass in the valley where she was raised.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. What's so fun about that is that character drips with sarcasm. And it's fantastic. Well, to her surprise, Maria was beginning to grow attached to the wondrous new land she had found herself in. She missed her herd back home, of course. She also missed the sweet taste of bluegrass in the valley where she was raised. And so it creates this whole new world and this whole new dynamic of who's reading and why is it reading. And it's so much fun to be able to play with that.
Yeah.
What do you think? What are your thoughts? What are you feeling right now?
It does feel really fun. I think Ursula is a very interesting villain. She's just
Yeah.
over.
Very yes. Yeah.
So yes, I didn't realize that it did sound sarcastic, but hearing you repeat it, I was like, yeah, it is sarcastic sounding.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And it changes it totally changes the tone of it. And so when you read with your kids and you're reading these fun stories, it's okay to mess around with that kind of stuff because kids are going to hear that and they're going to engage more. And when you're reading books or you're reading character dialogue or you're even reading a car commercial, having a character in mind will naturally lend itself to certain inflections, to certain timings and things like that when you read scripts. And so we associate that's why we associate Valley Girls with oh my gosh, did you see what she was wearing? That kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And whenever I do that voice for my daughter, she just cringes because Dad, please don't ever do that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to embarrass you in front of your friends. I don't care. And so we have these Valley Girls and Butch guys and bodybuild, we have these images in our head of characters and the way they sound. And so now we can take those characters and input their inflection and tone of voice and body language over that script. And that script then becomes with our own personality and character infused and just becomes a whole lot more fun to read.
Yeah, I would agree completely. It feels a lot more fun. I feel really tense when I have to focus too much on every word.
Uh-huh.
So
yeah, if I were to say, to hear her surprise, Maria was beginning to grow. I'm not going to focus on, you need to say Maria longer. Okay, great. How long another half a second? Maria. I never understand why vocal coaches get so ingrained in the minutia right away, especially when they don't have a context for what's happening. And sometimes you won't get directions from a director and they'll say, okay, read it fast or read it slow. Or I've heard a lot of vocal coaches will say, okay, your tempo has to speed up. Okay, where? Or how do I do that? Or what does that sound like? Or you need to elongate. She missed. Okay, she missed her herd back home. Not having the context and expecting somebody to do it gets very frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you felt like that in your previous lessons or whatever. I hope your lessons were good with whoever it was. But I hope that at least this was freeing for you to be able to do more scripts.
Yeah, very much so. It was very fun. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
That's right. I'm being angry. No,
Isn't Jonathan Price an actor too?
Probably. They're probably. It's not me. It's definitely not me. No, but I just do coaching and training, and I love it. So
awesome. And you work for Aftersight.
Yeah. Yep.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for all your time and your help.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really fun meeting you. Do you have any other questions before I let you go?
Oh, how often am I allowed to meet with you? Just the one time.
As much as you want.
Okay, awesome.
This is a
Well,
this is a free service provided by Aftersight, so take advantage.
okay. All right. Well, thank you again.
You bet. I'm gonna stop this real quick.